Have you ever wondered if you truly know the people around you? You look at their smiles, their words, their actions, and you believe you can tell who they are. You assume you can read their motives, predict their choices, and see through their behavior. But what if that confidence is an illusion? What if the face people show you is not who they really are, but only a carefully crafted mask designed for the world to see? And even more unsettling, what if you are wearing a mask too, one so convincing that you no longer notice it yourself? Most people walk through life convinced that what they see is reality. They judge others by their behavior, their habits, their words, or their mistakes. But beneath all of this lies a hidden truth, a dimension of personality that rarely comes to light. It does not appear in achievements or failures, not in the trophies on a shelf or the scars of experience. It reveals itself in much subtler ways, tiny cracks in the mask that slip through when we least expect it. And those moments are the doorway into someone's real character. You see, people are not just what they appear to be. Each of us carries layers, the image we present, the beliefs we hold, the wounds we hide, and the desires we repress. Most of the time, these layers stay concealed, buried under habits and roles that feel safe. But every so often, something shakes us, a moment of irritation, a challenge to our certainty, a sudden emotional surge. And in those moments, the mask slips. What comes forward is raw, unfiltered, and real. That is when we glimpse the person beneath the performance. Think about the last time someone's reaction shocked you. Perhaps it was an outburst of anger that felt disproportionate, or a defensiveness that didn't match the situation. Maybe it was a sudden intensity in their voice when they spoke about a topic they claimed not to care about. These are not accidents, they are revelations. They are glimpses of the hidden forces that shape who we are and how we act. But here's the twist. These hidden forces are not only about other people, they live in you too. Every strong reaction you have to another person is not just about them. It is also about you. Every time you feel a flash of irritation, every time you cannot stand someone's behavior, every time you feel the sting of being proven wrong, those are not random emotions, they are signals. They point to something inside yourself that you may not have faced. And this is where the journey becomes both uncomfortable and liberating. Because the truth is, you can never fully know others until you have begun to see yourself clearly. The people around you are mirrors. Their actions reflect not only who they are, but also the hidden parts of you. Every conflict, every irritation, every mistake has the potential to teach you something about yourself, if you are brave enough to look. What we cannot stand in others often says more about us than it does about them. When you feel a sudden wave of irritation towards someone, when a certain trait in another person triggers you so deeply that it feels almost personal, it is rarely about the other person alone. It is a mirror. The qualities you most reject in others are often qualities you have buried within yourself. They are the unacknowledged parts of your own personality, the hidden corners of your inner world that you would rather not see. This is why certain people seem to set us off without explanation. You may meet someone arrogant, and the moment they open their mouth, you feel an instinctive resistance rise inside you. You think it is about them, about how intolerable they are. But in truth, it is also about you. That arrogance touches something you have denied in yourself. Perhaps your own pride, your own hunger for recognition, or your own fear of appearing insignificant. Because you cannot accept these feelings within yourself, you feel rage when you see them so boldly displayed in another. The same is true for other reactions. If you say you despise dishonesty, it may be that you have struggled with your own relationship to the truth. Perhaps you have told yourself comforting lies. Perhaps you have twisted reality in moments of weakness. Perhaps you cannot forgive yourself for a past deceit. That is why dishonesty in another cuts so deeply. If you claim to hate selfishness, it may be because you have suppressed your own needs for so long that you cannot bear to watch others demand what you have denied yourself. And if you feel contempt for weakness, it may be because you are terrified of your own vulnerability, of the fragile parts you have worked so hard to hide. The truth is that our strongest dislikes are not accidents. They are clues. They are signals pointing toward the hidden parts of our own psyche. And the more extreme our reaction, the more certain it is that we are staring into a mirror rather than through a window. When you feel your body tighten, when your voice sharpens, when the thought of someone makes your blood boil, you are not only judging them, you are meeting a piece of yourself you have tried to bury. This realization is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating, because once you see it, you can begin to reclaim those rejected parts. You can learn to see arrogance not only as a flaw, but also as an expression of confidence you have long denied. You can see selfishness not only as greed, but also as a reminder that your own needs matter. You can see weakness not only as failure, but as the gateway to compassion, both for yourself and for others. The people who irritate you the most are not your enemies. They are your teachers. They bring your shadow into the light, whether you are ready for it or not. And every time you recognize this, you take a step closer to wholeness. There is something revealing about the way a person reacts when they are proven wrong. Most of us like to think of ourselves as rational, thoughtful, and capable of seeing the truth when it's in front of us. Yet when our certainty is challenged, when we are forced to confront the fact that our judgment failed, something deeper than reason takes over. Our pride trembles, our self-image feels threatened, and what rises to the surface is not calm acceptance but defense, denial, or shame. This is where the mask slips, because how you deal with being wrong exposes the strength or fragility of your character. Some people, when caught in error, immediately deny it. They insist that circumstances changed or that their words were misunderstood. In their minds, they were never truly wrong. They simply bend reality to protect their image. Others respond by rationalizing. They weave elaborate stories to explain why their mistake was logical, why anyone in their position would have done the same. They are not really admitting fault, only covering it with clever excuses. There are those who turn outward instead, shifting the blame. They project responsibility onto others, the misleading friend, the unclear teacher, the unfair situation. Then there are the people who minimize the whole event. They laugh it off, dismiss it as unimportant, convincing themselves and others that it never really mattered. These reactions all have one thing in common: they shield the ego from discomfort. To admit being wrong feels like a collapse of identity. If I was mistaken, then maybe I am not as wise, not as competent, not as strong as I thought. That fear drives us into these defense mechanisms, even when we know deep down that they keep us from growing. The paradox is that in trying to preserve our self-image, we actually weaken it, because a self that cannot bear to be wrong is fragile. But there is another way, one far more difficult yet far more powerful. It is the ability to sit with the sting of being wrong without rushing to defend, without scrambling to excuse, without collapsing in shame. It is the ability to acknowledge the mistake, reflect on what led to it, and allow it to teach you. This is a mark of strength, not weakness. The person who can face their own errors calmly has a kind of freedom others do not. They are not imprisoned by the need to always be right. They are not crushed by the weight of imperfection. They are able to see themselves more clearly, and in doing so, grow closer to who they truly are. Think of how rare this quality is. Most people cling to certainty as though their life depends on it. Yet those who can admit error without fear show a resilience that no amount of defensive pride can offer. They reveal not only honesty but also courage. The courage to be human, to be fallible, to learn. And in that humility lies the foundation of genuine wisdom. When the illusion of certainty breaks and the truth shows us where we were wrong, something inside reacts almost automatically. For many people, this reaction takes the form of defenses that rise up like walls. Denial, justification, blame, and dismissal are not random behaviors. They are the psyche's way of protecting itself from pain. To be wrong feels like a threat, not only to the mind, but to the very core of who we believe we are. If I was wrong, then perhaps I am not as competent as I believed. Perhaps I am not as trustworthy, not as wise, not as capable. And so the mind moves quickly to patch the wound, to cover it before anyone, including ourselves, notices how fragile we feel. This is why you often see people fight so fiercely to maintain the appearance of being right, even when the evidence stands against them. They are not really defending the facts, they are defending their sense of self. The problem is that these defenses, while they may offer momentary relief, keep us locked in cycles of avoidance. They protect us from discomfort, but they also prevent us from the deeper growth that only comes through facing the truth. In holding on to the illusion of perfection, we trade away the possibility of becoming whole. There is a profound difference between someone who clings to defenses and someone who can face mistakes without them. When you meet a person who can acknowledge their errors without collapsing, you are meeting someone with genuine inner strength. This strength does not come from perfection but from resilience, the ability to withstand the sting of imperfection without losing balance. Such a person does not need to bend reality to feel secure. They can admit, "I was wrong," and still know they are worthy, still know they are capable, still know that one mistake does not define them. This ability is what separates maturity from immaturity. The immature self scrambles to avoid the blow to its pride. The mature self holds steady, absorbs the lesson, and grows from it. It is not about liking the feeling of being wrong. No, one enjoys that, but about having the courage to accept it. And in that acceptance lies a quiet power, a freedom that those who live behind defenses will never taste. The irony is that the very thing most people fear, the admission of error, becomes the doorway to true confidence. Because once you know that you can survive being wrong, you no longer need to fear it. You no longer need to twist reality or fight endlessly to protect a fragile image. You can stand in your truth, both in your moments of clarity and in your moments of error, and know that you are strong enough to face both. That is the essence of growth, not to build an identity that never falters, but to build a spirit that can rise every time it does. Human behavior may seem unpredictable on the surface, yet beneath the variety of moods, choices, and words, most people operate from consistent psychological patterns. These patterns reveal themselves in how someone projects their hidden traits, how they respond to mistakes, how they defend their self-image, and how they interact when pressure strips away the mask. Once you begin to recognize these patterns, the mystery of human behavior starts to fade. What appeared chaotic becomes almost inevitable. A person may seem to change depending on the situation, but in reality, they are simply expressing the same core tendencies in different forms. Think of the individual who cannot tolerate being wrong. In one conversation, they may deny responsibility. In another, they may blame someone else. In yet another, they may create a long explanation to justify themselves. The outward forms differ, but the inner pattern remains the same, the refusal to face imperfection. When you see this clearly, you stop being surprised by their reactions. You know that whatever the setting, their need to protect their fragile self-image will shape how they respond. The same is true for those who project their disowned traits onto others. They may complain about dishonesty in one person, selfishness in another, arrogance in a third. At first it seems like different judgments, different criticisms. But if you step back, you notice the deeper pattern. A mind that cannot face its own shadow and so scatters it across the people around them. The details may shift, but the underlying structure stays fixed. There are also those who take the opposite approach, confessing their flaws too easily, almost rehearsing their mistakes as though to protect themselves from ever being truly confronted. On the surface, this looks like humility, but it too follows a pattern. By admitting just enough to appear honest, they avoid the deeper work of genuine reflection. They circle around their flaws without ever entering them. And then there are the rare individuals who can carry both sides of themselves, the strengths and the weaknesses, the clarity and the confusion, without collapsing. Their pattern is integration. They are consistent not in their defenses but in their openness. Whether right or wrong, confident or uncertain, they show the same willingness to face themselves honestly. This is not perfection but wholeness, the ability to remain real no matter what arises. When you begin to notice these repeating structures, something shifts in your perception. People are no longer confusing collections of random behavior. They are expressions of their own patterns, living out the same psychological rhythms in every context. This recognition does not make life dull. It makes it clearer. It allows you to see beneath the surface, to understand that every reaction is part of a larger story. And once you see that story, you can engage with people more wisely, more compassionately, and with far less frustration. Because you know that what you are really meeting is not just a moment of behavior, but the echo of a deeper design. When someone is placed under pressure, when life squeezes them in a way that strips away comfort and pretense, the truth of their nature rises to the surface. It is easy to seem patient when nothing tests your patience. It is easy to appear generous when giving costs you little. It is easy to act humble when no one challenges your pride. But when stress tightens its grip, when circumstances strip away the easy conditions that allow you to perform an image, what remains is not the mask but the essence of who you really are. Pressure does not create character, it reveals it. Consider the person who prides themselves on kindness. When everything is going smoothly, they speak softly, they offer support, they smile with ease. Yet in the moment of conflict, when frustration ignites and control slips, their words become sharp, their tone cutting. Suddenly, the practiced image of patience dissolves, and the anger that had been hidden emerges. Another example is the one who presents themselves as confident. They appear strong, assured, and unwavering when things are under control. But let them face true uncertainty, let them encounter failure, and watch how quickly insecurity seeps through. Their confidence was never rooted in strength but in circumstance. This is why difficult moments are so valuable. They act as mirrors that show us what lies beneath our practiced identities. A person who cannot tolerate discomfort will lash out or retreat when the world turns against them. A person who is truly resilient, on the other hand, will bend without breaking. They may feel the same fear or frustration, but their responses come from a deeper place of steadiness. You cannot fake that under pressure. No script, no act, no mask survives the intensity of real struggle. Pressure also reveals integrity. Many people will claim to value honesty, loyalty, or compassion, but when faced with choices that pit these values against personal gain or survival, their true allegiance is exposed. Some compromise immediately, trading principle for convenience. Others hold steady even when it costs them dearly. These moments are revealing because they show not who someone says they are, but who they are when the cost of being real is high. What makes this realization uncomfortable is that it applies not only to others but to ourselves. It is easy to believe we are stronger, kinder, or wiser than we really are, until life puts us to the test. The disappointment of seeing ourselves crack under pressure can be painful, but it is also the very place where growth begins. For if pressure reveals what is already within us, then by facing those revelations honestly, we can begin to transform them. We can learn to meet stress with more steadiness, conflict with more patience, fear with more courage. This is why moments of struggle are not only tests but opportunities. They strip away illusions, and though that exposure may sting, it offers the chance to see ourselves clearly. And in seeing clearly, we are given the power to change. True character is not built in comfort. It is forged in fire where masks cannot survive, and only what is real remains.